5 minutes past 10, our talkback lawyer David Whiting is here to take your calls to help you with free legal advice. And ladies and gentlemen, today it's extra free because it's Law Week. So as a special bonus for Law Week, David Whiting will be extra free, even freer than usual. 1300 222 774 is the number. 1300 222 774 if you'd like some free legal advice from our talkback lawyer. Morning to you, David. Happy Law Week.
Thank you, John. You're not selling me short. No. Yeah, free is free.
I'm not selling you at all, actually. I'm giving you away.
John, I went to the opening of Law Week during the week, which was very impressive.
What did they do?
It was a function at the county court. And there was a Wurundjeri dance.
What, finger food?
Finger food and drinks,
little
yes.
Cubes of inedible cheese and slices of dried out
more
salami
interesting than that. Much more interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it got a bit posh, has it?
They went past a bit fast, but they were certainly more interesting.
Warm red wine and warm white wine?
No, it was all appropriate.
Cordial?
Appropriate. No, there was wine and sparkling wine, and
ooh la la.
And the Chief Judge of the County Court, Peter Kidd, spoke well.
Former DPP, yeah.
And also the Director of Legal Aid. He came.
Bevan Warner?
Yes. Goodness, you should have turned up, John. You would have known everybody.
Made speeches, did they?
Yes, they did.
Said eloquent things.
They did.
Excellent.
And then there was an opportunity for networking, as they,
We had to empty out a shed to make some space at home, and I had some filing cabinets.
Does that mean you bought
there.
another car?
No. And I had some filing cabinets in there, and so I had to reduce 3 filing cabinets to 2. And in chucking out the contents of a filing cabinet amongst the 3 of them to reduce it to 2 filing cabinets, I had to go through a whole lot of old papers, and I found my Law Week file from 1985.
Yes.
When I helped organise Law Week, when it was a very, very small thing. And I was the moderator of a discussion about the law, and on the panel were Linda Dessau.
Yeah, she's kicked on, yeah.
Yeah, she's gone on. She's now the governor.
Mm-hmm.
Marcia Neve,
yes,
who's just retired from the Court of Appeal and done the Royal Commission into Family Violence, and the former Chief Magistrate, Sally Brown. And they were, back then, they were three women. Marcia Neve was at Melbourne Uni, Linda Dessau was at the bar, and Sally Brown was too. And it was like, introducing you to the fact that there are women in the law back in 1985 and they're doing interesting things. It was really quite funny.
Law Week started 1980, 1981.
I don't know, like but I just remember I was on the committee back then, and then we sort of organised this, and people went, "Oh, that's pretty new. Women in the law." Whoa.
They've been around a bit longer than that, John. Yeah. As I went through the program,
lots of things on for Law Week.
Yes, and you had a choir here yesterday for Law Week.
We did.
But the one that's impressed me, or the one I'm interested in going on Saturday at the County Court, you get to play being unaccused.
Okay.
So I think it's a little visit to the holding cells,
a mock
and they
trial.
bring you up into court. And I think if you've not been there before, John, court is a very intimidating place.
Indeed.
So lawweek.net.au, you can have a look at the program, see what interests you, and can I say there's lots free, lots in the country, lots in the verbs. Now, a couple of things during the week. The Court of Appeal handed down a decision on stepchildren.
Yes.
And when you want to make a claim against a person's estate, you need to meet the definition of an eligible child. And so we know what a stepchild is. A stepchild at law is the child of a person that you were married to.
Yes.
But not your child. So the question that the Court of Appeal needed to answer was a stepchild, did the definition include a child of a former domestic partner?
The child of a
former domestic partner. Or even a child of a domestic partner. So the question becomes,
sorry.
Now that we have a more flexible definition of relationships.
If I start cohabiting with someone, do their children automatically become my stepchildren? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's the question.
And then if we separate and years later I die,
yes,
do those children who were not biologically mine but were part of my household have a claim against my estate?
Well, they don't need to be part of your household to meet the definition of...
All right, they need
because they could be older.
They may have grown up.
Yes.
and been part of the family
Yes.
in its extended form, even if they didn't live in the same premises.
Yep.
But I was in locus parentis.
Oh, very good, John. You
to
remembered some things. I'm impressed.
In a parental-like relationship with
Yes.
them, even if I never actually raised them.
The answer is they meet the definition. They fall within the definition of stepchild.
Okay, so for people who in particular later in life, for instance, lots of people now, if you're, for instance, widowed or separated and single and in your 60s, 70s, 80s or whatever it might be, you form a new relationship, then suddenly you create obligations that you may not have encompassed or thought of.
Although we talk repartnering, I think is the phrase, John.
What did I say?
You started a new relationship. It used to be you remarried. Now you repartner.
You repartner, but you may, without realising it, inadvertently create legal relationships that you hadn't turned your mind to.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And the bit that I wasn't aware of, and I'm a really city boy, not a country boy, is that since January of this year, it's been the law that sheep must be tagged. Sheep.
Right.
Every sheep born in Victoria needs to be tagged, so it needs an E-tag.
A U-tag.
And very good. But I think it's the wethers and the rams as well, John. It's just, they get tagged and must be tagged before they leave the property on which they were born.
Sheep. Okay.
It's part of
that story
food trail.
What you were saying before about stepchildren, you could
Yes.
solve both problems in the same way. You could tag children.
Just an electronic tag, so
Yeah.
that I wouldn't need a swipe card to get into the office anymore. I just
In order
hold
to
my arm
keep track
against
of
the
who you
window.
have obligations to. You could have like an E-tag, but you could have a child tag, a stepchild tag. You could just keep track of everybody there.
It's only better all the time, John. Now, that's it for me.
1300 222 774. No homework or follow-ups?
I did have a homework. I had a homework from a lady who was Lana from Narre Warren. She had some beauty treatment done. What access did she have to records? Took a long time to find, John. It sits in the Public Wellbeing and Health Act, and you incorporate references to health records, and you talk to the Health Complaints Commissioner.
Okay. Could you ask David, please, what's the name of the Indian Appeals Court case that he mentioned last week, where the judges threw out an appeal because they said that the trial judge was unintelligible in his judgment?
Answer is I don't know. I can tell you that it was in the Hindustan Times of April 12.
All right. Ian says
I'll bring it next week.
I do a law program on a community radio station. I'm trying to find it. So it's in the Hindustan Times
of April 12.
And it was the Indian Appeals Court. That should probably be enough. Okay, let's get to calls.
And you can get it from bbc.co.uk.
1300 222 774, 1300 222 774. Felix in beautiful Queenscliff. Good morning to you.
Good morning. How's it going?
How's it there?
Lovely morning.
Lovely.
Yeah. I had a rude awakening yesterday from the Sheriff's Department who tried to track down my father because I have an unpaid feet on the seats fine from Melbourne City Council from 4 years ago.
What seats in the city of Melbourne are you not allowed to put your feet on?
The ones on public transport, I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah, that wouldn't be City of Melbourne. That would be okay. Right. All right. So, what's the question?
Is there anything that I can? What should I know when I'm? Because they asked me if I wanted to pay the fine straight up this morning, but I was wondering if I should try and ask them whether they should have got in contact with me sooner, or.
Well, I don't know whether you moved, Felix.
Yes. So I was living in Queenscliff at the time.
Yes.
But so they sent a record to an old address.
Yes.
But,
presumably the address you gave them when the fine was incurred.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I understand why you didn't keep them up to date with your address, but the answer is that the fine is still payable.
Yep.
There is a process, a convoluted process that might enable you to pay it by instalments.
Okay.
But the general proposition is that it is still due and payable. 3 years later, it does not go away, as you've since found out.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Felix, they've tracked you down, you said, through your father, is that right?
Yes.
So are you wanting to clear this up, or are you wanting to continue to avoid it?
No, I think it'd be probably better just to clear it up, I'd say.
So, David, what's the best thing for Felix to do? Do you go to the magistrate's court or correspond with the fining authority?
Well, you ring the sheriff's officer who will have left you with a number and say, yes, I'll pay it. What's the process?
And can you pay it in instalments, for instance, unless you've got that much money in the bank?
You can. I think you need to make an application to the court, but pay it by instalments.
Yeah.
Or to the infringements office.
Yeah. I felt this morning like they were trying to push me into paying it on the spot.
I'm sure they are.
They will.
Yeah.
I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier for them.
Otherwise, they might have to come back, Felix.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Good on you. James is telling us, I'll get back to callers, all sheep born after the 1st of January 2017 must be tagged with an electronic identification. It's 30 cents a tag. We have 5,000 sheep, says James.
That's a few.
That's more than a few. Our sympathies, James. Yes, that's a considerable impost. And then, of course, the cost of applying tags to 5,000
And then if you were
sheep.
really thinking it through, John, the pain to the sheep of being tagged.
But you've also got
Punch
to register.
a hole in their ear or something?
You've got to register. You've got to set up a system and a computer, and you've got to not just putting the tag on, but then you've got to connect the tag to that number to your property and blah, 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 blah. It must be quite an impost. So there you go. Philip in Upwey. Morning to you, Philip.
Good morning, John. Morning, David. I have an issue with a relative that's purchased a room in a retirement complex. The complex has been bought by another entity.
Yes.
And the contract surrounding that purchase has been changed. That she's losing an outdoor area. The size of the unit is being reduced.
Philip.
Yes.
I just want to get this right.
Yep.
She's moved into an aged care facility.
Yes.
And she has a residence agreement.
That's correct.
Can't be moved without her permission.
Right. Okay.
That's your starting point.
Well, that was the information I was after. Thanks, Dave.
Well, but I mean, there are ways that they could deal with it in dealings with the department. But what you might look at is whether as facilities are redeveloped, sometimes they might seek to move you for a period of time to move you back.
Yes.
So you might, but the general proposition is you can't be moved within the facility without your permission, except in the case of an emergency. So if the room floods, you can't say, oh, look, I'm really insisting on staying here, but you do have the right to go back.
Excellent.
So have a look at the residence agreement. General proposition is can't be moved without your permission.
But the thing about those agreements, I'm sure you've already tried, Philip, they're usually about the size of a small paperback novel and unintelligible from page one.
Well, exactly, John. They are unintelligible and they're generally outside the realms of understanding for just run-of-the-mill people. So it's understanding the questions to ask of a solicitor in reviewing that document, and then of course there's the fear in the background around the competency of that particular solicitor as well. So,
look, most of the documents, most of the residence agreements in aged care facilities in Victoria are written by the same firm of lawyers. Right?
Oh, okay. Good.
They provide the same document to most places, and they comply with the legislation, which is complex and convoluted. So the document needs to reflect the requirements of the law. It's not, I'm running an aged care facility, this is what I want to use. It's, I'm running an aged care facility, the government says my agreement must contain the following provisions.
I reckon, the same way they came up with plain language tenancy leases after a long and bitter argument with the real estate industry.
Yes.
I think there's as equally a strong case for simple English, plain language aged care agreements, and it's ripe for a makeover.
If you did it at the legislative end, yes, you will never get it done at the provider end.
At the commercial end? No. I think the industry has to be told either you put your house in order or we'll do it for you. But it is not acceptable with vulnerable elderly people and their children who are trying to sort out what they need to throw the book at them, literally throw a book at them and say, here is the standard agreement, take it or leave it. That's simply not good public policy.
No, there's the unfair contracts legislation you might be able to run.
Right, as if. Come on, David.
Okay. Well, John, the problem is that neither the resident nor the aged care provider has the skills to know which bits I can change without offending the legislation.
Hence the need for a plain English, simple English, standard form agreement in exactly the same way as
of less than 50 pages, John.
In the same way as a residential tenancy agreement.
It's 2 or 3 pages.
Was gradually brought down to what is the very essence of this contractual relationship and express it in simple English, and we can do exactly the same for aged care agreements. I don't see why not. There you go.
And Philip, the department runs a fantastic helpline. You can make inquiries of the department.
Excellent. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I'll pass on the information that you've given me, and then we'll work through the department as well.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks
you. Very much.
And good luck, Philip. John in Vermont. Morning to you, John.
Yes, good morning, chaps. I'm writing a will at the moment, and my children have remarried, and there's about 12 stepchildren to them.
Yes.
And I don't want them included in the will. And I was wondering whether there was a clause that I could put in it to exclude them.
You may have had some confusion from our conversation before. If you were to say, I leave my estate to my children, but if any of my children predecease me, leaving children, then I want those children to inherit. Your stepchildren do not inherit under that arrangement.
Can you say in your will, I only want my natural successors, my actual offspring, to be in my chain of succession? Are you allowed to do that anymore?
Yes, absolutely. So if you say, I want, in John's scenario, I want my children to get... The problem, of course, is that once the children get the money, they may form a different view. Mm-hmm. But if the child was to die in between, then the answer was you could say that my natural-born children, you could say those who are those children, or you could simply exclude stepchildren.
All right, John.
Fair enough, yeah. Okay, that's clear.
In fact, the neatest way would be to exclude stepchildren, step-grandchildren.
Right you are.
Thank you, John.
Much obliged. Cheers.
Ilham in Dandenong. Morning to you, Ilham.
Good morning, gentlemen. I have a question for David. Salespeople are calling me at home on my mobile, selling utility and all sort of things. However, the name they are asking is my 11-year-old child.
Yes.
I asked them how they got his name. They are telling me they got it from the public available records. Many times I ask them, can you please remove his child? I asked my child, unfortunately, he filled out one of those online surveys saying you can win an iPad.
Yes.
What can I do?
Why don't you, you've got to find out who's got the records to get them amended. But the other thing you could do is you could put your mobile number on the Do Not Call register.
They don't seem to care
No, don't care a lot.
Judging by what's happening at our place, where we're on the Do Not Call register and still get bombarded with them.
So, Ilham, you could that would be one of the things I'd do, would be donotcall.gov.au, so you want to get off the register.
Uh-huh.
And then you need to find out, what you want to do is get the name of the organisation who is calling you, and then you write to them and you ask them for details of where they got your number from. Otherwise, the list will be sold and sold and sold again.
And
so you need to go back to the source to get it off the first one.
This is what they told me, public available records. I Googled it, I couldn't see anything, how I can see any name.
Yes, Ilham, you want their address, you want to write to them, and you want the source of where they got it from.
I mean, I don't know, Ilham, I think it's more trouble than it's worth. You just hang up on them.
So it's not, it's not that I always receive those calls, not about me calling. It's my child. Like,
you just hang up on them.
He put the address and everything. Is there anything like in that for him? Safety?
That he himself can do? Are you worried about now or you worried about now or in the future?
In the future.
Look, I don't know. Eventually they give up.
Yeah, sooner or later they'll stop. I bet it might take some years, but sooner or later it would stop. I think that you need to get back to the source of where it is. So you want better information than that.
All right. Now, good luck with that.
Thanks,
Elizabeth in Collingwood. Hello, Elizabeth.
Hello there. Look, my problem is that I'm in a very old property, probably built in the 1890s, and it's part of a series of terrace homes.
Yes.
I have a joint sewer line with my neighbour, and
Yes.
that's blocked,
Yep.
and needs significant work done on it. It's about $8,000 worth of work. They're being very slow to respond to what the circumstance is, and I'm just wondering what my...
Have you spoken to the water company?
No, not
City
the
West
water.
You'd be City West Water, wouldn't you, in Yarra?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But the issue is on the property. The plumber has indicated that...
Yes, the water companies do have some jurisdiction,
Okay.
and that's because it links to their facility. But most of them are... The water companies don't like getting involved.
No. So what does Elizabeth do against her neighbours who are reluctant to pick up their share of the cost, by the sound of it?
There is nothing other than the magistrates' court.
Okay.
You can do alternate dispute resolution. You can try that, but that's about there's other than that. There's strictly nowhere else to go.
Do they live there or is it rented?
No, it's rented out.
Okay.
So if I had the works undertaken, then I'd have to pursue it in the magistrates' court to get their half of the costs.
Yes, which is horribly expensive.
And they know that, Elizabeth?
I rather expect, yep.
And they may be trading on it.
Where is the problem between... clearly your sewer pipes link up at some point.
Okay, so
Is it in the common area?
I've learnt a lot about plumbing just in the last week.
Yes.
And how to live life without access to a sewer.
And is it between the join in the services and the water company?
It's the shaft that connects our lead lines.
Yes.
So it's the point at which our lead lines
Join
go
together.
into a shaft. That's on my property.
Yes.
And from there it runs out to the right-of-way at the rear and connects to the main sewer.
So have you been on to the landlord, the agents, or who is it that you're contacting on the adjoining property?
I've been speaking to the owner.
Can I turn it round? Lateral approaches sometimes work, Elizabeth. Presumably the toilet next door isn't working properly either.
And
So
that
why
was
would the
certainly indicated when the plumber was here.
So why would the tenant next door not be seeking urgent repairs?
I have absolutely no idea because I'm currently...
They may
living
have better
without
bladder control than you. Who knows, right? But Elizabeth, talk to the neighbour. The neighbour has, as a tenant, has significant persuasive power with the agent, and there would be if they don't have.
There is no agent involved in this.
Okay, directly.
Well, then I would be if the tenant has a lease, then the tenant has the right. In fact, it's a residential tenancy. The tenant has the right to get urgent repairs dealt with, and could go to VCAT.
Tenants are often reluctant to make a fuss, aren't they, Elizabeth? And they don't
Well,
want to incur the wrath of the
tenant
landlord.
has indicated that he's a friend of
look,
one of the partners.
If push comes to shove, David, does Elizabeth just get the work done and then try and, if necessary, recover half the cost from the adjoining property owner?
Yes, but I wouldn't be spending the money I'd spend the money getting the work done. I'd be unlikely to spend the money to get the repair work done, to get the contribution back.
Uh-huh.
All right, Elizabeth?
Cheers.
Yes.
Not what you wanted to hear, is it?
Look, at the moment, it's not what I wanted to hear. You're absolutely right, John. Cheers.
No, very disappointing. And it's Law Week. Christopher in Diamond Creek. Morning to you, Christopher.
Morning, John. Morning, David. How are you?
Well, thank you.
I have an issue. I have an insurance dispute, a motor vehicle insurance dispute, that has gone to our insurance company, and the insurance company has rejected our claim.
Yes.
So we've then lodged a complaint with the Financial Ombudsman Service, and we're going through the process now with if I could call them the FOS, the FOS, Financial Ombudsman Service.
FOS to insurance. There was an insurance industry ombudsman. Is that now dealt with by FOS, is it?
Our understanding is yes.
Okay, yes.
So with the financial, it's with FOS. So we've received a letter from FOS saying that in response to our complaint, we need to complete or supply further evidence.
Yes.
And that date for that submission closes on the 18th of May.
Yep.
Yesterday we received a letter from our insurance company to the effect that it's a rather large and sort of very weighty document, but basically comes down to the fact is that they've already made the decision not to agree to the claim, and they've rejected it. And they've rejected it before the process with FOSS has completed. And I'm questioning how that can be done.
The agreement they have with the Ombudsman is that they accept the Ombudsman's decision.
Right.
Right, so keep going.
Keep going.
Because, look, sometimes you make a claim with an insurance company and they reject it.
Yes.
They may then have an internal review process.
Yes.
That's been rejected as well.
Yes.
But the agreement they have with the Ombudsman Service is that what the Ombudsman says, they will do. Otherwise, the system doesn't work.
Okay, fine.
So keep going. You've got another 2 days.
Yes, indeed. That's fine. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
David.
Christopher.
I appreciate Thank you for your advice.
Good on you and thank you. Apparently with a blocked sewer, you can always get the health department involved at the local council if you think it's a health hazard to the neighbour's property and force the landlord with a notice to attend to repairs. Someone else says get the plumber.
That's 2 weeks, John.
Get the plumber to repair their part and block off the neighbour's part because they're not contributing and say, too bad you wouldn't pay, so I'm not repairing your part of the sewer.
That's why I asked where it happened. It's not going to work for her. It's the shared part that's broken.
Yeah, but when you're doing the repair, you can disconnect the neighbour's part of it and say, well, you wouldn't contribute, so we're not connecting you. How would you go there?
Lose.
You could certainly threaten it.
John, I currently have a current practising certificate. I plan to keep it for a while, so no.
Luigi from Baldwin says, dob the landlord into the tax office because it's cash rental and that should get the landlord moving. Okay, any number of people saying do this, but in big breaking news, Moreland Council have announced that Methven Park, where they were to build a public toilet in the middle of a park.
John, it's a beautiful little park.
Contrary to the wishes of most of the neighbours, as we heard on the radio the other day, they've announced that they are stopping work on the Methven Park site and they will hold a new round of public consultations and meetings. And the neighbours are jubilant at the announcement that their campaign that started on this program a few days ago has been successful. David, as always, happy Law Week.
Thank you, John.
Just don't overdo it on the... I know.
Making too much of a good thing, I understand.
And look forward to seeing you on Friday. David Whiting, our talkback lawyer, helping you with free legal advice.